Hello everybody, welcome back. We're going over American textbook reading and we're changing the subject with this new lesson. Physical science is what we're talking about now with lesson 12, matter and senses. So in this unit you will discover people use senses to learn about matter. So let's talk about senses first. We're going to talk about 5 different senses and you can see ideas about senses going on here. We only have 4 pictures, but in every one of these pictures, they're also using a 5th sense, okay? Taste, hearing, smell, sight, and they're all touching something. So those are our 5 senses. Matter, what is matter? We'll talk about that a little bit more. That's one of our words. But matter is everything that's around you. All the objects that you can touch, smell, see, hear, those are all matter. So let's begin. Let's talk about the senses first. Our first sense that we'll talk about is hearing. We saw this picture of the boy, right? He's listening. He's listening. He's trying to hear something. So hearing is a sense. Listening is a verb, to listen. Hearing is a sense. Hearing is the ability to hear. So if you can hear something, if you can detect sound, you can hear it, okay? And we use hearing to figure out or to learn about things around us, to learn about our environment. That's one sense. The second one, sight. Human beings, we rely on our sight probably the most out of any other sense. Sight is very important to humans because we need it to see different colors, different faces, to know who is who. We need to see it. We need our sight to see, for example, if we're going to school, we need to see the bus number. We need to see taxis. We need to see subways. We use our sight all the time, especially playing video games or using computers. We're relying on sight. So sight is probably the most common sense that we use. Sight, of course, is the ability to see something. When you see something, when you look at it, when you watch something, you are using your sense of sight. Okay, let's go into the third sense. The third sense is smell, right? Can you smell that perfume in the air? In the springtime, you can smell flowers, right? Smell is the sense of being aware of things through one's nose. Now, it's interesting, of being aware of things through one's nose. You sometimes, if your brother, he takes off his shoes and you become aware of your brother's feet. How? Through your nose. Oh, nemse napayo, right? Your feet smell, right? So, you know, smells can be good, that smells can also be bad. So smelling is the sense of being able to be aware of something through your nose. You can have good scent, good smells, like for example, this girl is smelling a flower. Ah, that's a good smell. But old, dirty feet, that's a bad smell, okay? So good smells and bad smells. Let's move on. Taste. Of course, we have good tastes and bad tastes as well. Taste is the sense of being aware of a flavor of something. Wow, she's a very talented chef, looks like. She's a very talented cook. She's tasting what she is cooking to see if it's good or not. Hopefully, it's a good taste and not a bad taste, right? So taste is using your tongue, really, in your mouth to be aware of flavor. And of course, our tongue is the organ that we use to sense or to taste something. So we can figure out if something is sweet, if it's sour, if it's bitter, or what does exactly it taste like. So we use the tongue for that. That's our sense of taste. Let's move on. Our final fifth sense that we're talking about here, number 5, is touch. Now, we use touch a lot. We don't really think about it that much. You know, we think about, you know, eyes are for sight, noses for smelling, ears are for hearing, mouth and really tongue is for tasting, but our whole body is used for touching. We can touch things with our face to see if it's soft, right? Rub something against your face. You can use your hands to touch something because your hands are usually used for that. They're safer. You know, if you're touching something, you want to touch it with your hands before you touch it with your face because your hands are tougher than your face. But you can use your arms, you can use your legs, you can use your toes. These are all ways that we can use the sense of touch. Touch is the sense by which we feel things. You can feel something with the skin on your face, right? Your dog's fur, right? You rub up against your dog with your face, you feel how soft the fur is. You feel something with your hands to figure out what is it, especially if the lights are out. There's no light or you can't see. Then you use your hands to feel something. If you want to know if the water is hot or cold, you can touch it with your toes, right? Then you can figure out if it's hot or cold. So we use our whole body, our skin, to use the sense of touch. Okay, now let's talk about another word here, matter. We're talking about the 5 senses. Why? Because we want to know about matter. We're looking around us. We want to know about our environment. We want to know about the things that are around us. And this is called matter. Matter is all things are made of this. Matter has weight, right? And it takes up space. So 2 main features of matter. 1, it takes up space. That means it exists. It takes up some 3-dimensional space in our world. It takes up some certain volume. And it weighs something. It is heavy. Even if it's a feather, and it's very light, it still weighs something, right? It still has some weight, a little bit of weight. And a feather which is very small, it doesn't take up a lot of space, but it still takes up some space. Everything in our world that has weight and takes up space is matter. And that's everything, really. Okay, so when we talk about matter, we're talking about, we can use adjectives to describe what the matter is like. Right? And one of the adjectives we can use is shape. Remember, I just said that matter takes up space. It has certain shape when it takes up that space. When it takes up space, it has a type of shape. Shape is the outer form of something. So whatever it is, that matter that exists there, it's making some sort of shape. And there's lots of different shapes, as we can see. We can call these by different names. This shape here is a cone. On the top, this is a cone shape. This block of wood here, if you see that, that is a block. So if we say it is a block, we're talking about the shape. What about this shape here? That's an interesting shape. This shape is called a cylinder. A cylinder. This shape is a cylinder. So there's lots of different shapes. It's the outer form of something. And that's one thing that we can talk about matter. And that's the shape of something. We can also talk about the color of something. When we describe matter, we don't just have to talk about the shape. We can also talk about what color is it. The quality of being red, blue over here, or yellow, or etc. Lots of different colors. Green, turquoise, or pale blue. And this is also blue, but this is purple. Okay? So yeah, you have different shades of blue here, yellow, green, red, and purple. So these are all different colors, right? And when we talk about matter, we can talk about them. When we describe them, we can talk about their color. So we can talk about shape, we can talk about color, we can talk about size, okay? So we can also talk about size. How big is something? How large or small something is. If it's small, medium-sized, or large, right? So large, medium, small. How big is it, right? How large is it? How small is it? Either way, we can ask about the size. Okay, we have a nice chart here talking about the 5 different senses. We have the 5 senses here. We can just go over them. And you can see, like I talked about before, we talk about the different body parts that are associated with the different senses. First of all, we have sight. We have an eye. Of course, we use our eyes to see things, to look at it. And we use our eyes to figure out what color is it. We could use our eyes to see what size it is, or the shape of something especially. Over here, we have hearing. And of course, we use our ears to hear. That's the organ that we use for the sense of hearing. We use our ears to hear, what does something sound like? What kind of sound does it make? Over here, we have smell. Smell, of course, is associated with the nose, right? We smell something, whether it's beautiful flowers on a spring day, or your brother's wet old socks, right? On every day. I'm just kidding. But, you know, we use our sense of smell. We can detect, we can become aware of things through our sense of smell. Over here, taste. And remember, taste, the organ that's associated with taste is our tongue inside of our mouth. We can taste things. Looks like she's tasting some, could be, I think it's ice cream is what she's tasting. And she's getting ice cream all over her lips, right? Of course, ice cream is very good. It tastes great. But remember, there's good tastes and bad tastes. There are good smells, there are bad smells. Ice cream is a good taste, right? Lemon is a sour taste, right? So lots of different types of tastes. Finally, we also have our fifth sense. Don't forget about touch, right? Sometimes we don't think about that. We might forget about that sense. Now, of course, normally we use our fingers for the sense of touch, but remember, you can use your whole body for touch. You can touch something else with any part of your body. And the touch. So this person has a small pet, looks like a hamster in her hands, and you know, she's touching it. The hamster is very soft, it's furry, it's warm. We can sense these things through our sense of touch. Okay, let's watch a video associated with the senses. Here, whoa, he's kind of scary. Okay, hello. Okay, let's see what he's going to do. Okay, let's see what's going to happen here. He's pointing to his eyes. Well, first his ears and his eyes and his nose, then his mouth. He's showing us all the different 5 senses. So what he did basically, ears for hearing, eyes for seeing, nose for smelling, mouth for tasting, and hands for touching. Okay, so we saw the different ways to sense matter that is around us. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, we will move on now. Okay, now we're going to go over the exercise. We're going to talk about the different words. We're going to match these words to their definitions. Okay, the first one. The sense of being aware of things through one's nose. So when you use your nose to become aware of something around you, what sense is that? Okay, if you chose smell, that would be correct. That would be the sense of smell. Okay, number 2. The sense of being aware of flavor, right? When you use your tongue, okay, you lick some ice cream, right? Or you lick a lemon. You're becoming aware of the flavor of something. How does it taste, right? How does it taste? Whoops. How does it taste? How does it taste? What is its flavor? What is its flavor? Okay? So we use these words in different ways. What is its flavor? How does it taste? If you want to know the answer to the question, what sense do you use? You should, of course, use your sense of taste. Use your tongue. What does it taste like? How does it taste? Okay, number 3. The ability to hear. When there's a sound out there in the world, some form of matter has created a sound, lots of different sounds. What sense are you using to detect, to become aware of that sound? You are using your sense of hearing, the ability to hear. Okay, so we're moving on to number 4. Something that has weight and takes space. Okay, so you see, we're taking a short break from the senses right now, but we use our senses to figure out things about this. Something that has weight. Remember, 2 important things. It has weight and it takes up space. It takes space. What is that? Of course, that is matter. All the things around you, every object that you can see, that you can hear, that you can touch, that you can taste, that you can smell, all of these things are matter. Okay? Number 5, the sense by which we feel things. So if you feel something, is it hot? Is it cold? Is it soft? Is it rough? Is it smooth? The sense that we're talking about here is, of course, touch. We normally use our fingers and our hands to feel things, but remember, you could use your whole body to feel something, okay? Usually we use our fingers or maybe our toes if it's a hot or cold water to see if it's hot or cold. But that's the sense of touch. Number 6, the ability to see. Now this, of course, is our most important sense. It's the most commonly used sense for people. And of course, we talk about that. That is, of course, the sense of sight. Now it's interesting, I've said that a couple times. The ability to see is the most important sense for people. But for some animals, you know, they don't rely on their sense of sight that much. Like, for example, dogs. Dogs, they very commonly rely on their sense of smell to be able to smell different scents. So they can figure out whether a person is Joe or a person is Robert. You know, Robert and Joe don't smell the same. Dogs can find out that very quickly. We don't usually do that. We don't go around smelling people. We use our sense of sight, look at their faces, and then we can see, oh, that's Joe and that's Robert. So it's interesting to also notice that, you know, different animals use different senses to find out about matter in the world. Okay, well, let's move on. Here we have a nice chart. Comparing things, okay? So when we compare things, when we look at different types of matter, we can use our senses to find out how things are the same or how they are different, okay? Let's take a look. Sense, okay? We have the sense over here, which is sight or touch. This is the object, teddy bear. We can see, we can use the sight to find out some adjectives, how to describe it. We can use touch to describe it. And for a plastic doll over here, we can use our sight to come up with these adjectives, and we can use our sense of touch to come up with this adjective. So let's compare. First of all, we have sense, sight and touch. First object is a teddy bear. When we look at a teddy bear, what can we find out about it? When we use our sense of sight, we can find out that the teddy bear is large, big, and it's brown. So we can find out about its size and its color, right? Size and color. Then when we use our sense of touch, we can see what does it feel like, right? What is the texture? It is rough, right? It's not smooth, it's, you know, kind of rough because it's got a lot of fur or a lot of material sticking out of it. It's rough. If we look at a plastic doll and we compare it with a teddy bear, well, first of all, using our sight, we can see that it's small. It's smaller than the teddy bear, so the size is different. It's blue. The color is different. The teddy bear is brown. The plastic doll is blue here. Sure, it's brown there. That's true. It's similar there. You could use your sense of sight to say brown and brown, but it's also blue and yellow down here. So it's a little bit different. We use our sense of sight to find out these differences. For touch, if we touch the teddy bear, it feels rough. But if we touch the smooth plastic teddy bear doll, we see that that's smooth. Okay? So plastic is smooth, has a smooth surface. So basically, this is a good chart to give us an idea or a couple of examples of how we use our senses to find out about things around us, to learn about things. And we can compare things. How are they different, right? We can see these different features of the things that are around us using our senses. Okay, let's take a look at some pictures here. We're going to take a little bit of a test. We're going to say, we'll look at the picture and we're going to figure out the correct body part we use to sense the thing in each picture. Okay? So, over here we have a picture. Looks like some kind of lunch food. We call this a wrap, right? Looks like a chicken wrap, and it's got some vegetables in there too. So if you're going to eat lunch, right, and you want to find out about this food, what body part are you going to use to find out about this food? Of course, you want to know what it tastes like. What does it taste like? So, are you going to use your ears, right? You're going to take the food and mash it up in your ears, right? No, don't do that. Or are you going to use your mouth? You can take the food and put it in your mouth and chew it. It's good. Of course, you're going to use your mouth. Don't use your ears. That's crazy, right? Okay, so you're not going to listen to it. Does it make any sound? No, it doesn't make any sound. But you're going to put it in your mouth and you're going to taste it because it has flavor. You're going to find out what the flavor is. Now over here we have a picture. What are we talking about? Are we talking about the fire here? Or are we talking about this truck here? We're talking about the truck. Now as you know, this is called a fire truck. And when it is going to a fire, it has to get there fast, right? It goes there very quickly. So it uses a siren at the top. It goes wee, 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 right? Very loud noise. So what part of our body are we going to use when we hear a fire truck coming? we are going to use our ears, right? First, we're going to hear it a long time before we see it. And we're not going to touch it because that could be dangerous. Fire trucks are going very fast. Don't go, hey, I want to touch you. No, it's going to run you over, okay? So, and if you chase after it, you're not going to catch it. Okay, so anyway, I'm being silly. But anyway, of course, we're going to use our ears because we're going to hear that siren a long time before we see it, okay? Because it's a very loud noise. Finally, over here, what is this? You have some interesting shapes. You may not be familiar with this. This is, of course, perfume. If you go into your mother's room, well, be careful. Don't go into your mother's room unless your mother says you can go into her room. But on her desk, you can find stuff like this. And these are different types of perfume. What do we use perfume for? What does your mother use perfume for? Well, she'll take a little bit of perfume, she'll put it on her finger, and she'll put it on her neck on both sides, maybe on her wrists. Why? Because she wants to smell good, right? This is a kind of scent, right? If you put perfume on your body, then you smell good. And how do we learn about perfume? How do we learn about what does it smell like? Do we use our mouth? No, don't put perfume on your tongue. Ugh, that tastes horrible. You would use your nose. You would put a little bit maybe on your finger, and you would smell it. Or you don't have to put it on your finger, you just open the bottle and you can smell the perfume. But don't do that unless your mom says it's okay, because she might get upset if you just go into her room and start smelling her perfume. Okay? Okay, so good. Let's move on to our true or false questions. Again, if the sentence is true, circle T. If it's false, circle F. Number 1. All things in the world are made of matter. We've talked about this a lot so far, so you should probably get this right away. Of course, that is true. Everything, all the things that we can see, everything we can hear, everything we can touch, smell, or taste, these things are all made of matter. It has weight, it has some type, it takes up space in the world, it is matter. So everything fits that description. All things in the world, everything you can look at, everything around you is matter. Okay, that's true. Number 2, sight is the ability to hear. Sounds strange, doesn't it? It is strange. It's false, right? Sight is not the ability to hear. Sight is the ability to what? See. So that's wrong. That's false. Okay, number 3. Smell is a sense. That's true. You smell with your hands. That's not true, right? You don't smell with your hands. Oh, there's some perfume, right? No, you use your nose to smell something. So you smell with your nose, not your hands, okay? So you smell with your nose, so that is false. If we change up, you smell with your nose, yeah, not your hands. So that is false. Okay, and it's 2 sentences, so be careful. Smell is a sense, that's true, but you smell with your hands, that's false. So remember, you have to count both sentences, not just one sentence. Okay, that wraps it up for the vocabulary learning stage. We're going to take a short break now, and we're going to take a look at the reading after the break. We'll see you soon. Okay, welcome back. We're going to go over the reading part for Lesson 12, Matter and Senses. We start off with the topic sentence. The topic sentence is, people use senses to learn about matter. So this reading passage will be about how we use our senses to find out things about matter. Remember, there are 5 senses, and they will list them here. There are 5 senses, and of course we use a colon here. You use a colon when you're going to list things. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, at the end of a complete sentence. There are 5 senses. That's a complete sentence. Then you're going to list them, so use a colon. Okay? What are the 5 senses? Hearing, sight, down here, smell, over here, taste, right there, and touch, right there. So these are the 5 senses. We have them written here. We can also see the corresponding pictures down here. So those are the 5 senses. Then we talk about each in turn. We talk about each one in turn. We give more details. We say a little bit more about each of the senses. Hearing is the ability to hear, of course, with your ears. We use our ears to hear. You use your hearing so you can recognize which dog makes which sound. Ruff, ruff. Is that my dog? Or yip, yip. Is that my neighbor's dog, right? Which dog is it? So you use your hearing to recognize which dog makes which sound, or which person makes which sound, or which car makes which sound. So we use our hearing to figure out about things around us. Sight, of course, is the ability to see with your eyes. Hearing is for ears, sight is for eyes. Notice the same construction, the same pattern used in all of these sentences. That's good writing. You can recognize whether something is big or small, or has dark or bright colors. We use our sight to be able to figure those things out. Next, we have smell. Smell is a sense of being aware of things with your nose. Each sentence says what it is, and it also says what body part is associated with that sense. It's the same construction in each sentence, and like I said, that's important. If you're going to write this type of passage, keep the same structure, keep the same organization. This is a good example. Flowers smell sweet in spring. Yeah, so you use your sense of smell. Your brother's socks smell bad every day, okay? So for example, okay, so smell is a sense of being aware of things with your nose. Taste is the sense of being aware of flavor with your mouth, okay? We use our mouth to detect taste. When you taste, you can recognize if the food is sweet, salty, sour, or bitter. Ugh, bitter, right? So that's when we use our taste, we can recognize those things about matter, food that is around us. Finally, our fifth sense is touch. Touch is the sense by which we feel things with our skin, on our fingers, on our cheek, with our toes, any part of our skin. When you touch a cat's fur, for example, it feels very soft. Be careful. If the cat bites you, it feels very painful, right? So we can use our skin, any part of our skin, to use our sense of touch. With the five senses, so we've covered the five senses. What are things that we can figure out about materials? Then we have some information about that. With the five senses, people can study. We can learn about shape, color, size, etc. of matter. So we can find out what is the shape. Is it a cone shape, a block shape, or a cylinder? What color is it? Is it red, yellow, or blue? What size is it? Is it big? Is it small? You know, well, most of these are the same size, but you know, we can talk about lots of different things. These are the three main things they're talking about here in terms of describing matter, but there's all sorts of other things we can say. Is it heavy? Is it light? We can talk about all those different types of features of different types of matter. Okay, let's get into our reading skill here. It is to classify. Now we're going to classify the five different senses. The main idea here is people use senses to learn about matter. That's our topic sentence. But we want to give more details. We want to classify the five senses. Let's classify them. Let's separate them into groups and give some details about each. Here are our five senses here, and here are the information or the ideas about each one. Let's start over here with A. Now we need to fill in the blanks with these words. Nose, skin, ears, sight. Actually, A is kind of easy because we know we have five senses. Hearing, smell, taste, touch. Which one is missing? If you chose sight, that's correct, right? Hearing with our ears, smell with our nose, taste with our tongue, touch with our skin, usually our fingers, but all over, and sight finally with our eyes. Okay, so we filled in that one. Sight, you see things with your eyes. That's what we're talking about. Okay, hearing. You hear things with your what? I just said that just a couple seconds ago. We hear things with our ears. Smell. You smell with your what? Nose or skin? You smell with your skin? Now, of course, we smell with our nose. Taste. This is already done for us. You taste food with your mouth. And finally, touch. You touch things with your skin. Remember, anywhere you touch things with your skin. So that's filled in there. Okay, let's move on to some comprehension questions. We have the sentence, a question, and we have three possible answers to that question. Number one, which sense can you use to know the size of something? How big is it? So what sense do you use? Now remember, you could use a couple of different senses, but we only have 3 choices here. We can use sight, hearing, or taste. Which one seems to be proper to you? If we look at something, of course we can see if it's small or big. So that's the answer, right? If we try to hear something, we can't see if it's big or small, right? Especially, imagine you're talking about a box. There's a box in your room. You could have a small box, you could have a big box. Do you listen to them to find out which is the small box and which is the big box? You could listen all day, you're never going to figure it out. Taste. You're going to lick the boxes to see which one is big or small? No, that's crazy, right? You're going to use your sight. By the way, you could also, of course, use the sense of touch, but that is not one of the choices here. You could feel them and see, oh, this is a big one and this is a small one. But touch is not here. We only have sight, which is appropriate. Okay. Number 2. How does a cat's fur feel? We talked about that. If you pet a cat, you know, you put your hand on the back of a cat and you feel its fur, the hair on its body. A, bitter and black. It's kind of strange, right? Bitter has to do with taste, right? So we're talking about feeling, not taste. Black is a color. That's what it looks like. That's not how it feels. So A is obviously incorrect. B, very soft. Yeah, we use our sense of touch on a cat's fur to feel something, and we can see that it feels very soft. We can find that out by using our sense of touch, by seeing what does it feel like. C, sweet? No, sweet has to do with taste. And rough. Rough is a type of feel, but sweet doesn't fit, so obviously that's wrong. It could be rough. You know, if you want to know how a cat's tongue feels like, put your finger on your cat's tongue. It's very, very rough. Okay? But again, you'd be using your sense of touch. How does it feel? But we're talking about fur here. Fur is very soft. Okay, let's move on. Number 3. With the 5 senses, you can study what? What can you study? By using your 5 senses. A, hearing, sight, smell, and taste of matter. Okay? B, size, shape, color, and taste of matter. C, size of matter with your taste and smell. Now this is kind of an interesting one, right? Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 here. Okay, what we've got here, with your 5 senses, you can study the hearing of matter, sight of matter, smell of matter, taste of matter. Does matter do these things? Does matter hear? Does matter see? Does matter smell? This is kind of a tricky question, right? This is not correct because you cannot study the hearing of matter. What that means is that you can study how matter hears. That doesn't make sense. Matter doesn't hear. But what about B? You can study the size, how big something is, shape, what it looks like, color, what color is it, and taste, what does it taste like of matter. That is true, right? Because you can look at these different features of matter using your 5 senses. Okay? So the difference here is that you're looking at these features of matter. You're not studying how matter hears, how matter sees, right? Because remember, all things are matter. If you're talking about your computer doesn't hear, right? So that doesn't make sense, right? But you can see the size of your computer. You can see the shape of your computer. You can study the color and the taste of your computer. Your computer probably doesn't taste very good, but you can study these things using your 5 senses. C, size of matter with your taste and smell. That just doesn't make sense. The size of matter with your taste and smell, that doesn't make sense. Okay, number 4. When you taste something, you recognize if the food is what? Salty, sweet, sour, or bitter? Actually, that's the correct answer. We just talked about that a little while ago, right? So you can find out if the food is salty, if it's sweet, sour, bitter. These are all tastes. These are all different types of tastes. B, red, blue, green, or yellow? Can you taste red? Can you taste blue? No, that's silly. That's crazy, right? You can't do that. Can you taste if something is loud, if it's soft, if it's near, or if it's far? No, that's also very silly. So these are our tastes, salty, sweet, sour, or bitter. And we can recognize, when we use our sense of taste, we can recognize these things about our food. Okay. On our final slide, we have a chart here. We looked at this chart before. Let's test our memory. These, of course, we're talking about our five senses. We use our five senses to learn about matter that is around us. So let's start up over here. We have our eye. We're looking at something. We can use this sense to figure out the color of something, the shape of something, how big something is. What sense is that? That's our sense of sight. The most important sense for human beings, our sense of sight. Over here, this boy, he's listening for something, right? He's using what sense? He's using his sense of hearing. He's trying to pick up the sound of something. Okay, over here, this girl, she's out in the field. She has a flower. She's using her nose to find out about the flower. What sense is she using? She's using her sense of smell. Okay, she's using her sense of smell to become more aware of the flower in her hand. This girl over here, I envy her. She's eating ice cream, right? Okay, so what is she using? She's using her tongue in her mouth to find out more about that ice cream. And I'm sure she finds out that it's sweet. Not salty, not bitter, not sour, but sweet. And she's using her sense of taste. Okay, finally over here, this girl has a pet hamster in her hands and she's petting the fur. It's very soft and it's warm. And what sense is she using? She's using her fingers, her skin, to figure this out. So what sense is she using? She is using her sense of touch. Okay, this is a good roundup of the different five senses that we use to discover things about matter. Remember, matter is all around us. It's everything around us. Two important things. It has weight and it takes up space. And when we talk about matter, we can talk about size, we can talk about color, we can talk about shape. Okay? And we use our five senses to find these things out about matter. Well, that wraps it up for this lesson. We'll see you guys again next time. Take care, everybody.